The age of the Sturlungs or the Sturlung Era was a 42 to 44-year period of internal strife in mid-13th century Iceland. It may have been the bloodiest and most violent period in Icelandic history. It is documented in the Sturlunga saga. This period is marked by the conflicts of powerful chieftains, Goðar, who amassed followers and did battle, and is named for the Sturlungs, the most powerful family clan in Iceland at the time. At the end of the era, the Icelandic Commonwealth ceased to exist and Iceland became a vassal of Norway. Historians generally regard the year 1220 as the first year of the age of the Sturlungs, although some wish to place its beginning at an earlier date because of the Battle of Vardines. Power in the country had consolidated within the grasp of a few family clans. They were the Haukdælir of Arnisthing, the Oddavayar of Rungarthing, the Asberningr of Skagafjörður, the Vatnsfirðingar of Ísafjörður, the Svanfellingar of the eastern region, the Sturlunga of Havamur in Dalir. At this time, Haakon the Old, king of Norway, was trying to extend his influence in Iceland. Many Icelandic chieftains became his vassals and were obliged to do his bidding. In exchange they received gifts, followers and a status of respect. Consequently, the greatest Icelandic chieftains were soon affiliated with the King of Norway in one way or the other. Goðar. In the Icelandic Commonwealth, power was mostly in the hands of the Goðar. Iceland was effectively divided into farthings. Within each farthing were 9 Gothid dominions. The North Farthing had an additional 3 dominions due to its size. All in all they were 39. The Gothi chieftains protected the farmers in the territory, and exacted compensation or vengeance if the followers' rights were violated. In exchange, the farmers pledged their support to the Gothi, both by voting in his favor in the Alþingi Parliament and by taking up arms against his enemies. The powers of the Gothi chieftains, however, were neither permanent nor inherited. This status came about by a combination of respect, honor, influence and wealth. The chieftains constantly had to demonstrate their qualities as leaders, either by giving gifts to the followers or by holding great feasts. If the chieftain was seen as failing in any respect, his followers could simply choose another, more qualified Gothi to support. The greatest chieftains of the 12th and 13th century started amassing great wealth and subsuming lesser dominions. This may be one of the causes of the Civil War. Course of events. Beginning. The age of Sturlungs began in 1220, when Snorri Sturluson, chieftain of the Sturlung clan and one of the great Icelandic saga writers, became a vassal of King Haakon of Norway. The king insisted that Snorri help him bring Iceland under the sovereignty of Norway. Snorri returned home, and although he soon became the country's most powerful chieftain, he did little to enforce the king's will. According to one historian, we do not know whether inactivity was due to lack of will or his conviction that the case was hopeless. In 1235, Snorri's nephew Sturla Sigurdsson also accepted vassalage under the king. Sturla was more aggressive. He sent his uncle back to Norway and started warring on the chieftains who refused to accept the king's demands. However, Sturla and his father Sigurdur were soundly defeated by Gissur Thorvaldsson, the chief of the Haukdælir, and Kolbein the Young, chief of the Asbernings, in Orlingstaðir in Skagafjörður. The Battle of Orlingstaðir was the largest armed conflict in the history of Iceland. The Sturlungs had 1,000 armed men and the Asberningr had 1,200 armed men. More than 50 people were killed. After this crushing defeat, Gissur and Kolbeinn became the most powerful chieftains in the country. Snorri Sturluson returned home to Iceland, having fallen out of favor with the king due to his support for Earl Scully in an attempted coup. Gissur Thorvaldsson, also a vassal of the Norwegian king, received instructions that Snorri be killed. In 1241, Gissur went with many men to Snorri's home and murdered him. Snorri's last words are said to have been "Eigi Skalhogva." Thorthor Karkali stirs up trouble a year later. Thorthor Karkali Sævardsson, son of Sævatur, Snorri's brother, returned home to Iceland from abroad. He had cause for vengeance, for his brothers and father had fallen in the Battle of Orlingstathir. He soon showed himself to be a formidable tactician and leader. 4 years later, the rule of the Sturlungs was effectively over, after fierce battles with Thorthor. The battles Flóabardagi and the Battle of Haugsnes both take place during this period. Thorthor Karkali and Gissur Thorvaldsson, however, did not fight each other. Both were vassals of the King of Norway, and they appealed to him as dispute mediator. The king decided in favor of Thorthor, and from 1247 to 1250 Thorthor ruled Iceland almost alone. He died in Norway. 6 years later, Gissur returns and the Commonwealth ends. In 1252 the king sent Gissur to Iceland. The followers of Thorthor Karkali were displeased and tried to kill him by putting his residence in Flughamyri in Skagafjörður to the torch. This incident is known as Flughamyrabrenna. Despite his influence and power, Gissur was unable to find the leader of the arsonists, and was forced to return to Norway in 1254 to bear the censure of the king, who was displeased with his failure in bringing Iceland under the Norwegian throne. Minor conflicts continued throughout Iceland. Meanwhile, Gissur was given the title of Jarl and sent home to negotiate. Only when the king had sent his special emissary, Halvarthagul's did the Icelanders agree on Norwegian kingship. The Commonwealth came to an end with the signing of the Gamli Sáttmáli agreement in 1264.